George Kittle in KOTOR. Just kidding, George Kittle in Nashville right now at tight end U, where I guess Taylor Swift made an appearance, but KOTOR is here in Montenegro, and we can still collect some of the great 49ers news from afar. Some of what George Kittle has said at his media availabilities here during tight end U is that Isaiah Neyor, the rookie wide receiver out of Nebraska, is apparently just blowing the socks off of the 49ers. He said that there was a play on tape that the tight end room was watching where Isaiah Neyor made it 9.5 yards in 2 strides. Now, this is the guy that was the complete athletic specimen in college, 4.40 40, 6'3", 218 pounds, every single measurable that you'd want. That's why people are so excited about him, but the consistency had to get better. Well, George Kittle is saying that that athletic explosiveness is truly showing up on tape. He said at least the practice squad for Isaiah Neyor. You rarely hear veterans say that, especially this early in the entire process. Speaking of unusual things, how about this? We were on this waterway. It's the Bay of KOTOR underneath us. We took this crazy cable car up. You get up to something like 4,000 or 5,000 feet from sea level in 11 minutes. The open sea out there, that's where we took the boat today, to this place called the Blue Cave. That is the Adriatic Sea separating Montenegro, former Yugoslavia, and Italy. And I mean, just the towns here, I said Kittle and KOTOR. Well, KOTOR is one of the towns near the end of the Bay of KOTOR. It's named after the town, a little medieval town. Think of this, think of like Yosemite-like rocks, like Yosemite-like rock face, El Capitan comes to mind, but then combine it with the sea, combine it with the old medieval towns, and you've got Montenegro. Just this insane combination. We really enjoyed our time here. We really enjoyed our food here as well. Good spot to talk about the 49ers, as every spot is. So in the case of guys like Isaiah Neyor, who were undrafted free agents but have a ton of potential just because of the athleticism, you don't often hear players or front office personnel gassing them up too much in the media, just because you know that if you're going to try to sneak him onto the practice squad, he's going to be exposed to waivers. Somebody at the waive before you re-sign. So generally, you don't want to hype up a player like Isaiah Neyor all too much, but George Kittle just doesn't seem to care about what he's saying anymore. I think he's just being honest. I think that Neyor's athleticism has impressed them. Mike had a very astute observation, because what George Kittle said, and this was on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast, was that the tight end room, their jaws dropped watching Isaiah Neyor run 9.5 yards in 2 strides over and over again. That means that this guy has caught the attention of the tight end room. And Mike said, well, if receiver doesn't work out for him, he's already 220 plus pounds. What if the 49ers convert Isaiah Neyor to tight end? What if they tell him, put on 10 more pounds? The position's downsized a little bit because defenders are downsized for blocking purposes. Put on 10 more pounds, see if you can maintain that 40 speed under 4.5. He's at 4.40 right now, and maybe he can be a tight end. Maybe he can run an amorphous position, since I think that when you look at the 49ers offense, there's just been more and more blend between positions. Christian McCaffrey embodies it. George Kittle obviously embodies it probably more than any other tight end that we've seen in the history of the game. Shows up from Iowa, caught 36 passes over the course of his college career, is at 250 pounds, and has been able to maintain 4.5 speed over the course of his entire NFL career. So you look at these amorphous position groups and this amorphous skill set that players bring to the table, maybe Isaiah Neyor does fit into that category. Other 49ers news going on right now. The Florida Panthers have won the NHL Stanley Cup for the 2nd straight year. Florida Panthers are based in the suburbs of Miami. One such suburb of Miami is Fort Lauderdale. That is Nick Bosa's hometown. Nick Bosa very happily celebrating the back-to-back championships with the Florida Panthers. Now the next question is, when does Nick Bosa get a championship of his own? When does he stand on the mountaintop of the NFL? And I think that the 49ers have as good of a shot as many teams, or better, this coming season. We could talk a little bit about the NFC West. Since the rosters have been locked in for all of these teams, you're going to have some occasional additions from here on out. But I think the huge additions for the NFC West are in the books, at least pre-trade deadline. Maybe the 49ers are able to make a deadline addition. Maybe the Rams make a deadline addition. The Seahawks, the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are going to be sneaky good this season. I think I really like what Jonathan Gannon has been doing as far as a vision goes for Arizona. This is a former Eagles defensive coordinator who's brought in some former Eagles players. Josh Sweat, the edge rusher, is one of them. The defense wasn't good for Arizona last year. But he's also brought in Dalvin Tomlinson to man the defensive tackle position. I think that Arizona, if Kyler Murray can give them some sort of consistency, like in the top 10 of quarterbacks next year, I know it's going to be easier said than done since he hasn't been that guy in the past, but if they can get that from Kyler Murray, Cardinals can be dark horses in a division where the 49ers and the Rams are favorites. Now, it's funny because the 49ers used the Rams model this offseason because it worked so well for the Rams, and obviously they won the division in 2024. But I think that San Francisco is actually ahead of the Rams in application because they've got more star players. So I think that San Francisco, if they can avoid the injury pitfalls of last year, if they can get younger and hungrier, which they've done over the course of this offseason, I think it's very, very reasonable to assume that the 49ers will be better than the Rams. So the 49ers have that inherent advantage over the Rams. We'll see if they could sail off into the sunset as champions. We've got the last sliver. There it goes. You know, sunsets, they're funny. You wait for them for a long time when the sun is up high, and then the closer it gets to the horizon, the faster it moves. Something about the curvature of the earth. But now this looks like a watercolor painting. We also saw a nuclear submarine tunnel. The former Yugoslavia, like communist Yugoslavia, they had their navy setting things up alongside the Bay of KOTOR, and they have former submarine tunnels. One of them might have been in a James Bond movie. We're still trying to figure it out, but they're actually playing the Godfather music in the nuclear submarine tunnel. One of the cooler experiences under the radar today. You know, everybody talks about the spectacular scenery. We obviously have a lot of that here in Montenegro around the Bay of KOTOR. We even flew above Budva, which is the city right on the coast, and that was this old fortress town. You know, everybody's going to Croatia these days and talking about Croatia, but Montenegro seems to be the next on the list. Former Yugoslavian country, obviously not under the communist rule anymore, but the old submarine tunnels are still there. You can check them out on a boat tour. If you're gonna eat here, it's all about the prosciutto, because they're close to Italy. So Dalmatian coast, prosciutto, that's what you want. And of course, seafood. Everywhere that you walk, you smell octopus. Now, Lombardi herself, who does such a great job videotaping these things, you can go point toward KOTOR. There's a restaurant that you really love, and I think they have grilled octopus, and I think that you're gonna want the tartare, and I think I've gotta take you down there. It's been a good day here in Montenegro. So Isaiah Neyor, 49ers are fired up about this young receiver. Let's not talk about Brandon Ayuk anymore. It's tiresome. Let's talk about guys like Isaiah Neyor. Let's talk about Tariq Owens. And let's talk about the 49ers trying to take the NFC West in 2025. It's obviously time to talk about the 49ers defense because we're standing on a moat. Who knew these things still existed with water in them? I've seen plenty of moats without water, but this one has very strong, modern, current fortifications. And by modern, I mean medieval. Still a good representation of the 49ers defense. They need to prevent offenses from crossing into town.